have a new series for you. This is going to be a limited series. I'm only going to do 4 videos. The videos will go live every Wednesday in August, and it's going to be about documenting the tough stuff. So, a couple of things when you're documenting stories that are hard. You know, the journaling's hard. It's very sad. It's not the good stuff, right? It can be daunting, and it can feel overwhelming, and it can feel really sad. Like, who wants to go into their craft room and be really sad? So I have a couple of tips and tricks that I'm going to teach you throughout the lesson, throughout each of these videos throughout the month, but we're only going to do 4, and there's a reason for that. So when I think about documenting tough things, there's a couple of things that I think it's important to remember. Or there are a couple, not rules, I don't know, things that I think about, right? Okay, so thing number 1, do things in small pieces. Don't go in documenting one of these stories and think, I'm going to do the whole page. Because you know what? You're going to run into roadblocks. It's going to happen. It happens to me every time. For example, today's video, I started with the photos, and I literally probably looked up these photos on my desk for 3 or 4 days, trying to get my head around what I wanted to say, well, the story that I wanted to tell, that kind of thing. Then I had to pick product. I didn't want to pick product that was cheerful, right? But I also didn't want to pick product that was really dark. So after going through my stash and shopping my stash, I decided that for this layout, I'm going to work with this collection from Close to My Heart. It's the Feels Like Home collection. And I have lots of all kinds of little bits and pieces. The next thing that I did was I came up with my journaling, and I chose to type my journaling up and to write it. When I did my journaling, I went with how I feel now about the tough story we're going to tell. I put the date that I typed up the journaling here at the bottom, and I'm going to put this in my album now because this is my thoughts on this tough stuff in our life. Okay, so that's where I am. It took me a couple days to do this. These aren't the good stories, right? These aren't the easy stories to tell, and that's what we're going to do for this month. The reason there's only 4 videos and why this isn't going to be an ongoing thing, because my emotions can't handle it, right? I have my 4 stories picked out. I know what 4 stories I need to get into my album while those memories and my thoughts on them are still fresh, but not so fresh that I can't type them out, if that makes sense. Okay, so we have our photos, we have our story. This story, by the way, I'll show you here. So these are my 2 sons and a very, very good friend of ours, Marcia. And when she passed away in April of 2017, so a little over 2 years ago, her dog, Molly, was left as an orphan. And we took Molly in, and we had Molly with us for a little over a year. She was a senior dog. She was already 13, I think 12 or 13 when we got her. But we gave her lots of love, and we gave her a home for as long as she needed one. And then she passed away April of 2018. So I have the journaling that tells the story about that, about Molly and how Molly didn't have a home and was going to go to the Humane Society at 13 years old, and my husband and I just couldn't let that happen. So we adopted her, and we had her. And so that's my story. It's all typed up. I have my product, and now I'm at the point where I just have to come up with a layout design. And I'm kind of liking this, almost a grid, with a title down here and some embellishment up here, and maybe something to ground the layout at top and bottom. That's where my brain is at the designing. So if you have some tough stuff that you need to scrapbook, please follow along. Christina Sorge is going to be joining me throughout the month on Wednesdays in August as well. She's going to have her own stories to tell. And then I have a couple people that are going to just pop in now and then with their stories. I know later on this month, Christy from Christy's Beautiful Life is going to join me. And so we have, it's going to be not fun, because these stories aren't fun, but they are definitely important. They're definitely things we need to do. So if you have these tough stories, I suggest that you start with picking photos and then kind of let those photos simmer for a while. Think about what are the important parts of your story. What part do you want to tell? Choose some products and then do your journaling. You can do handwritten journaling, you can do type journaling like I did, you can do hidden journaling. This story doesn't require hidden journaling, whatever. But give yourself a break between steps. So when you come in and you're ready to kind of scrapbook it with your embellishments and, kind of like the fun part of just designing the layout, you don't have, you're not super depressed, or you're not, So just do little chunks would be my biggest tip for documenting these types of stories. So I have my products, I have my photos, I have my journaling. Let's start creating this layout. So I decided I was going to go ahead and use colored cardstock for this layout. I generally don't go with a colored cardstock, but when I had purchased this Feels Like Home collection from close to my heart, they had coordinating cardstock and ink and stamps, and this color just blew me away. I thought it was like the most beautiful color. So I, in this particular case, bought the cardstock and decided I really should use it. So I went through all the pattern papers and I grabbed, one is a branding strip and the other is a border strip from the cut apart sheet. And I'm going to use those two strips of paper, those two strips of patterns to ground my layout. And now I'm just marking where these corners meet because I'm going to go ahead and do some stamping. So in a comment recently, someone had called this my ginormous Misty, and I love that. I love that so much. So from now on, that's its name, Ginormous Misty. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use that coordinating sugar plum stamp set, and this is, this collection had a card making stamp set and a scrapbooking stamp set, and I got the card making one because I just liked the images better, not necessarily because I was only going to be doing cards with it or anything like that. I probably will do cards with it too, but and so what I'm doing is I'm just pulling some of the images I really like, and I'm going to use those little corners that I marked as areas that I want to kind of diagonally come out of, so that when I finish this layout off, you're going to have a diagonal stamping that's going to go from the top left to the bottom right. Okay, so because I'm using sugar plum ink on the sugar plum cardstock, so I'm getting this really soft, pretty tone-on-tone look. And I really, really like how this turned out. I stamped all of my stamps twice with that ink just to give it a little bit more contrast off of the pattern paper. So now that I have all my stamping done, I'm going to go ahead and adhere these strips to the top and the bottom of my layout. And then I'm also going to go ahead and get my photos placed where I ultimately want them to be. And that's going to help me as I go through my embellishments, because what I'm going to do is I'm really just going to layer on top of those stamped images and bulk those stamped images up. I matted my photos onto one of the darker pattern papers just to give it a little bit of contrast so that the photos became the star of the show, and then also coordinated them with my journaling because the dark border around the journaling card that I chose to use also has that dark border, the same color, same pattern. And that's also the same pattern that's at the top of the page. Okay, so I'm going to start with stickers. I have a package of stickers and a package of die cuts, and the first thing I want to do is cover up that half a flower in a pocket. So if you were doing a pocket page, that half a flower would be a really nice embellishment. But on a 12 by 12 layout, that half a flower looks really out of place. So I knew going in I needed some stickers and I needed to bulk up the top of that journal card. The next embellishment I have here, these are watercolor die cuts. I bought 2 packs of them because I just thought they were beautiful. So they are die cuts and they're printed on watercolor paper, really heavy, thick paper. So if you wanted to watercolor them or color them with water-based markers, anything like that, you totally could. For this particular layout, I didn't want them to be so much of a feature. So I went ahead and I just left them black and white. Now I know that I'm going to need a piece at the top and bottom of my diagonal to kind of ground them. And eventually I'm going to find and go ahead and grab one of the die cuts, which is like a little tab. So there is definitely some text and elements in this page that could work for a title. I didn't really give myself an actual title, so this layout doesn't really have an actual title. But there's a little bit of titling above the journaling, and then I'm going to use these tags. If you're anything like me, these pop-out die cuts must be trimmed because you can't stand the little pop-out things. Yeah, that can't just be me, right? It has to be someone else. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use one of those tags that you see here, one at the top left and then another one at the bottom right. And that's going to pull the photos. That's going to pull that this border at the top and the bottom and the diagonal, so everything kind of flows really nice on the layout. Oh, and now I'm playing with my, why is it, okay, can you guys tell me this? Why is it every time that you're doing a video and you're just kind of like plugging along, you're going really fast, that's when the Tim Holtz mini stapler either A, runs out of staples, or B, like in this time, it like flipped staples upside down randomly inside of it? Who knows? So goofy. Anyway, carrying on then. I am tucking in little flowers, and what I'm basically doing is I don't want a lot of bulk, but I definitely want that line that I have going there, that little like backwards Z kind of page design that I have going. I definitely don't want it to look disjointed. So I'm really just finding elements and die cuts that will keep your eye flowing down through the different elements of the page. I decided I needed a third supporting cluster on this page. Just my brain couldn't do it. So I decided that I would go ahead and add just a small cluster with a couple of stickers and one of the die cuts down to the bottom of my journaling, and it just makes, to me, it makes the layout look more complete and a little more finished. I have a little bit of an OCD with clusters and things like that. It doesn't matter, but for my eye, I needed that third cluster, so that's what I did. Now, as I'm looking through here, I'm not finding anything that's like super small enough for what I want. I want a little bit, I just want a little sprinkle, right? But I don't want sequins because that's too shimmery and shiny for this page, and I don't want, I didn't really have any enamel dots that would really work well with the colors of my layout. So I'm just sitting here thinking about what do I have, and genius struck. So part of the coolness of having all of my sequins in a big bowl on my desk means I look at them more often. And that means that I was able to remember that I still have some of these sparkly effervescents, which are just these clear, like little plastic bubbles. Now, as I put them on, they're gonna look white because I'm gluing them down with Nuvo glue. But when they dry, they're completely clear. So they add just that little bit of something extra, so it's not super sparkly, it's not, glittery or anything like that. It's just a really nice, soft, subtle, clear, sprinkled embellishment. And they were perfect. So perfect for this layout. So I'm really, really happy that I remembered them. And thank you to Moira for reminding or for giving me this idea of just putting all of my sequins into a giant bowl on my desk, because it's working out fabulously. This is the second or third, maybe even the fourth layout that I've done recently that, yeah, I was able to find just the perfect little thing in that bowl of sequins. Awesome. All right, that's going to complete this layout. Thank you so much for starting on this journey with me. If you have some tough stories to tell, feel free to use my tips and tricks to get those just four of those stories told during this month. And if you do, please tag me and let me know you're playing along or creating along with me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.